there, everybody. It's Mike Delisio with another Dice Tower Daily Unboxing. Today, we're going to be taking a look at one of my most anticipated games of the year. This is Dwellings of Eldervale, coming from Breaking Games and designer Luke Laurie. I had a chance to play this game in a pre-production form over a year ago, and so I'm very excited to take a look at the finished product. This is a legendary edition from the Kickstarter, so keep that in mind. This is not going to necessarily be exactly what you might find depending on what version you might come across. I'm also going to quickly show off some of the upgraded components that came with this, and also a little Minotaur that came with this one as well. All right, well, this is a big box with a whole lot going on. A long-lost world of magical power awaits. Giant monsters roam while dragons, wizards, and warriors battle in 8 elemental realms. Fight the beasts, dwell the land, claim the magic. All right, so this is kind of going to show right here what are the extra components with the Legendary Edition. So, again, just keep in mind, depending on which version of the game you get, it might be different. As a matter of fact, even down to the cover, there were 2 covers that were available, and this was the one that we got here, this kind of Dread Croc, I believe is what it's called. All right. So looks like there are some elemental starter cards that were misprinted, and so you have to replace those with these. So that's something that keep in mind if you get those. We've got some rule books here and some player aid sheets. Actually, these are, yeah, just kind of reference cards. I'll show you those. These are double-sided, kind of card stock. All right, that go through the elements of the game. We have 3 rule books here in a sense. We've got our base rule book. This is for the solo mode, and this is an appendix that's going to go into more detail of each of the cards and monsters and things along those lines. So we see our illustrated components here, and it also gives you a little bit of a notation when something is not part of the base game. So these little blue seals are things that came with the deluxe edition, and these red seals are what came in this edition, which is the Legendary Edition. All right. Goes over the setup, some optional realms, which again were, I think, part of the expanded editions of it. How to prepare the realms, terms and concepts. How to play. Dwellings of Eldervale is a turn-based game. Each player takes a turn until the end game is triggered, and that's going to be triggered by one player building their 6th and final dwelling, or when a player draws the last realm tile from the realm stack. At that point, everyone would get one more turn, and the game would end. You do one of 2 things. You either place a unit or you regroup. That's it, but there's a little more involved when you get into it, and it goes into more of those details, the actions that you take when you go upon realms or elemental tiles, and regrouping, meaning bringing your workers back from Eldervale and potentially, hopefully, placing them on cards that you have in front of you that are going to trigger more actions. Okay, free actions, your adventure card tableau. How to battle, because you're going to be battling either your opponents in the game or also monsters that will eventually roam around the realm as well. Elemental power, this is very important. This is a way that you gain points throughout the game. One of the ways you gain points throughout the game. Here are those monsters I was talking to you about, and the end game as well. We've got some alternate game modes. You can add mercenaries, a little mini expansion of Mother of Dragons. The Frost Giant mini expansion is for this Legendary Edition that you're seeing here. A 2v2 mode. You can draft. You can venture without doorways. You can add in tactics tokens. And we're going to look at these sound effects bases as well. This shows you how to put everything back into the box. This is the solo version of the game, which is its own rule book. And then, as I mentioned, you've got the appendix here, which is going to go into the different factions you can play as and their difficulty levels. Okay. Also, all of the adventure cards in the different elements are gone into more detail. The magic cards are going into more detail. And then you've got the deluxe monsters and the legendary monsters. Okay. And then an FAQ on the back. Also, this little first time setup, this tells you what to do to set the game up for the first time, to kind of get it ready to make your setup go more quickly. Here are our adventure card trays with tops on them. All right. So your cards would go here. There's little stickers that you'd be putting up here. And this is going to be where you would be placing these. Actually, let me show you these right now. These kind of replace the cardboard versions of them. Here's one of the yellow elemental tiles. These would go in here. Okay. There's going to be a cardboard representation of that, but I showed you the wooden ones. Let me just show you kind of more of those so you can kind of get an idea. Those are screen printed wooden tiles. There are also some additional wooden tokens for some of the alternate modes of the game. I believe like the Mother of Dragons is one of these. Okay. Give you an idea of those. Put these back and we'll move further down into our unboxing. So our cardboard components are here, which are going to be many of them replaced with advanced or upgraded components, depending on the edition you have or are playing. All right, so I'll just pop out one of these tiles. This is going to be the main game board. It's going to be made up of different elements depending on which elements you play in the game. You're going to not necessarily be playing with the same elements in every game. I'm just going to kind of show you these. Okay. All of these different colors represent different elements in the game. These are the Ruins tiles, I believe they're called. You see some standees for monsters here, but this edition you would not be playing with those. Pardon me. This is the elemental board, which is going to be your score tracker and also your glory track for when you win battles, and the underworld for when you lose battles. You're going to be moving up these tracks, hopefully to gain points and also to gain multipliers on your adventure cards. Here are those stickers I talked about that you'll be putting on those trays. Some more cardboard components there. This is the Ghosts of Eldervale. This is the solo board. Okay. Now we've got our player boards. I think it would be one way to kind of put it. The different factions that you can play as. And each one of those has two options. So if you were going to go with this kind of light blue horde, you can either play as the Storm Horde or as the Skyborn Avians. And as I showed you in that almanac earlier, some of them are considered a little bit easier to play than others. And that's mostly based off of these different powers that your different types of units can have. Some of them are a little bit more obvious than others. I don't know that they're terribly different, but as far as difficulty. So each player would have one of these trays. They'd be filled, as I showed you, with that kind of, you'd have your roofs here and your different workers here. And you would then just kind of clip this on top of it. Okay? And so this is going to kind of hold all of your player components together. So the first time before you play your first game, you would kind of fill these all up and then put the corresponding topper on it. So there's 8 of those. Let me show you. You got the Storm Horde and the Skyborn Avians. You've got the Shadow Demons and the Cult of the Night Queen, the Ember Crush Ogres and the Fire Witch Goblins, the Stonehelm Dwarves, and the Wardens of Even March. We've got 8 more here. The Rattlings of the Swarm and the Servants of the Eye, the Elves of Briardell and the Mosswood Trolls, Clerics of the Dawn, the Pride of Bastet, Pirates of Nightmare Cove, and the Atlanteans. All right. We also have here some resource trays, magic cards, and all of the different resources that you'll be seeing here in a moment in wooden form. 2 of those. We've got some wooden markers that are used on the elemental track, and they also can be used as score markers and for the glory track as well, kind of just your standard player markers. So much stuff. Okay. Again, I'm going to have to go relatively a little more quickly here because there's just a lot to cover. So we've got some orbs here, which are just like these glass beads. Orbs can be very powerful in the game. We've got our different types of workers. Here are our screen printed wizards for the different player colors. All right. We've got our warriors here. Show you a couple of those because you can get an idea. They're all the same, just of different colors. We've got our dragons. Again, these are the standard. You've got your workers, your warriors, wizards, and dragons. Everyone has access to those. They all kind of work slightly differently. Well, many of them do work slightly differently depending on the faction you are playing as. Here are our standard workers here. All of them screen printed on both sides. We've got our wooden gems. We've got our tools here. We've got our scrolls. We've got our swords. All of those are the resources that you can be gaining throughout the game and placing into your player board as well. We've also got gold, which is wild. This is metallic. Very, very nice in this legendary edition. You can kind of see. Very nicely done. We've got our roofs of the different player colors. These are plastic, and let me just quickly show you how this works. One of the ways you're going to get points is to turn your workers, once they're out on an elemental tile, into a dwelling. Once they become a dwelling by having the roof placed on them, they are no longer a unit of yours, they are a dwelling of yours. And they get you lovely, lovely points. All right, we've got our individual battle dice for each of the different factions. They're all kind of marbled. You can kind of see that there. They're smaller than normal, but they all fit, 6 of them in your tray right in here. This is our realm stacker where you put your realm tiles in a little discard tray. Also, there's room in here for other pieces. All right, I'm going to look at cards, and then we will look at the minis, okay? We got lots of cards here, but I'm going to go quickly because this has already been a pretty extensive unboxing. All right, here are some of the adventure cards. You get an idea of the iconography and the graphic design and the artwork. But again, I'm going to go quickly here. This has already been a pretty extensive unboxing, but there is a lot of stuff in this box. Okay. There's that. See more of those. Then we'll take a quick look through the magic cards. Okay. Oh, these are solo cards here. These are the Ghosts of Eldervale cards. These are the starting player cards for all of the different factions. These are some of the monsters. Okay, so I believe these are the deluxe monsters, and then we've also got some legendary monsters as well. These tell you what the different powers of those monsters are, what abilities they've got, whether they can be dominated or not, which means you basically can take them as one of your units. Since we looked at those last, let's quickly add in these legendary monsters, which are just basically for each elemental color. These are different monsters. And they all have their own abilities. All right. Look at our magic cards. Okay. There are a lot of these. These can have some very powerful abilities. Some of them give you immediate abilities. Some of them give you kind of persistent abilities. Some of them give you end game scoring. Some of them are quests that you can go on. All right. Let's take a look at these minis. Here's our dragon, our mother of dragons here. You can see there's a bit of a wash on these. They come that way. All right. Here are our deluxe monsters. Okay. Particularly nasty looking creature right there. There we go. And you see these all correspond to the different elemental colors. So depending on which elements you're playing in that particular game, that's going to determine which monsters will come out. So if you're playing with the red element, this nasty looking creature would come out, or potentially come out. If you're playing with the dark blue, here's that dread crocodile. It's going to wreak its havoc. All of them have slightly different abilities, powers, things that make them nasty. All right. And then we've got our legendary monsters, which for all of the elements have slightly different abilities and powers and ways to mess you up. All right. You can see they've got this wash to bring out some of the details. I suppose you could still paint these if you wanted to. However, I personally am very happy with just the detail that these washes give them. I feel like for me personally, that's plenty. I know that some people really would still like to have these more fully and classically painted, and I'm sure you can do that. All right. All right, and then the last thing to show you, which is part of this deluxe edition, are these sound effects bases. So, these are the legendary monsters here. We look down here at the bottom, you see a little switch. You see, well, first of all, we need to pull that out. We see off, on, and L. If it was the deluxe monster, you'd put it on to on. This is a legendary monster. We're going to put it on. Oh, you can hear it. I kind of gave it away. We're going to try that again. I'm going to turn it off first. Then I'm going to put the legendary monster on his base. And then we're going to get this box cover back on and make a dramatic ending to this unboxing by switching this over to the L and saying, "Thank you for watching another Dice Tower Daily Unboxing."